What's up, everyone? Welcome to our 7th episode of the House Hacking Mastermind series, where we interview local investors that have either closed or just closed on their first property, and they're trying to decide whether they should short-term rental, dabble with Airbnb, medium-term rental, or even rent by the room, or they actually just close on their property and they're in the middle of doing renovations and have questions, or actually just maybe had their first Airbnb guests. And we're just here to mastermind and network. My name is Ben Einspar, the host of the House Hacking Masterminds podcast, here with my two normal co-hosts, Chris Lopez. Chris, what's up, man?
I'm enjoying this. You're in the driver's chair now. You're the host. I'm the co-host. So this is great. So keep talking.
Perfect. Well, Chris, I got to tell you, I follow Envision Advisors a lot, and I've seen a lot of cool things you've done in Q1, whether it's the studio remodel, the portfolio analysis with Chelsea Scott, and even all the more deal analysis that you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Co-host number 2, Jeff White. What's up, man?
Hello. I'm doing great. Excited to be here as always.
Yeah.
And talking a little house hacking.
Right on.
Yeah,
So
and I like you as the host. You know, you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. So are you close to house hack number 5?
Yeah, in like a month or two here.
Holy cow. Have you started your search?
Yeah. Starting to look around, and obviously the market's tougher right now. There's less inventory, but definitely find something.
Perfect. Good. Yeah. All right. To introduce our guest, we have David. And David just closed on his first townhouse in January of 2021, and currently living with family and planning to nomad every year for this foreseeable future. What's up, David?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Glad to be on. So real quick, for anyone that doesn't know what nomading is, can you help explain that to us?
Yeah, so the whole premise of nomading is essentially you buy a property with the intention to live in it for at least a year, and the purpose of that is for cheaper down payment, so you can save a little bit more for the next property, right? You can only put 5% down versus 20% for an investment, and that way you save up more capital, and then once that year is up, you look for your next place, move on to the next one, repeat the process.
Right on. Do you have an idea of how many you'd like?
This is the first one, so sky's the limit right now.
Perfect answer, man. Perfect answer.
You might be able to compete with Jeff White here in the future if you want to go double digits and go big.
Double digits, yeah. Hopefully, we'll see.
I threw in the flag on that one a long time, a little bit ago. From going from transition from house hack number 1 to house hack number 2, I realized it's a new ball game. There's a lot of challenges, which I'm sure you're well familiar with.
Oh yeah, you just gotta adjust. Just adapt. It's just being adaptive.
Yeah.
You know, just what the big challenge is, of course, in moving. Like most people associate a negative connotation with moving, and if you downsize a lot, if it took you, let's say, 4 hours to move all your stuff instead of how long it probably took you, you probably think like, let's do this again in 1 year. So that's one way to like reassociate moving. If you change your mindset there and tell Allison how this will help your future new little baby.
Yes. Yes.
It will provide, pretty much pay for all their college. I would do an 18-year mortgage. Actually, I was going to tell you that. 18-year mortgage for your next place, and pay it off, and by the time they're in school or going to college, give it to your kid.
So, question. Why wouldn't you just do a 30-year mortgage and just plan and do the math in reverse and plan to have it done in 18 months, because you're stuck to that 18 months, and because we all know crap can hit the fan. So if it does hit the fan, you can go back and not have those higher payments.
Good answer. I agree completely.
You're all right. Moving forward. Yeah. Our second guest today is Ryan. And like most of us, he read Rich Dad, Poor Dad after college, just like me. I did. That was my first
Bible.
book. That's the best way to put it. After graduating with a large amount of student debt, decided to put your real estate empire on hold. 5 long years after paying off debt, moved to Colorado, got into bigger pockets. finally finding a job that allowed flexibility to pursue real estate investment. You bought your first house hack in November. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Welcome.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me on.
Right on. So, do you mind me where is the general location of your current house hack, and can you explain kind of why it's a house hack and what the layout is? It a mother-in-law suite, maybe a walkout basement?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on the east end of Arvada, 62nd and Sheridan area. And yeah, I'm working with a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house hack. So I'm living upstairs. I have a tenant across the hall from me we both have our own bathrooms. Then I have a tenant downstairs with pretty much half of the basement to himself. And he has his own bathroom down there as well. So that's the layout. You may have guessed that I only said 3 people right now. I do have my own office at the moment. But we'll see. I'm kind of bouncing back and forth whether I'm going to rent it out or not, because I definitely like the extra space. But so we'll see. We'll see at some point. But yeah, that's the current layout.
Right on. So when we spoke about a couple weeks ago, you mentioned you're doing rent by the room, correct? Mm-hmm. But your strategy when choosing tenants is just a little bit different than Jeff White's here, because for everyone that doesn't know, Jeff White is the mastermind at Renting by the Room, but you do it a little bit different. Do you mind explaining that?
Yeah, well, Jeff is definitely the house hacking guru for sure. But I know when him and I spoke, it was more so, obviously you get quality tenants, whatnot. But I was really focused on the relationship and the morale of the house. So I definitely took my time finding tenants. That was purposeful, but I also had some issues with advertising the space. I think we may have talked about this on Chris's podcast, but yeah, I was getting kicked off Facebook Marketplace with my property when it was posted, getting pulled off of Craigslist because the previous owner of my house, I think, was using my photos to spam people. So really interesting, scenario I was dealing with right off the bat. So some chaos to start, but I figured it out. So
yeah, and I also got a sneak peek of your deal analysis podcast, which will be, I think, airing maybe in about a week or so. Is that right, Chris?
It'll be before this podcast right now goes live. So keep the math that simple, because that counter changed a lot. It'll be before you guys listen to this podcast.
Perfect.
And
Keep
one more note. I need to go back and do a little post-mortem on that podcast we did, Ryan, because after we recorded the podcast, we were doing some calculations and numbers. After the podcast, Ryan says, well, how can I pull up my spreadsheet? I was like, what spreadsheet? He's like, the spreadsheet I emailed you. So that was on me and our new process for getting content on there. So not to make you look ill-prepared, Ryan, we were like, I had the numbers, but you didn't pull up the spreadsheet. So that was on my fault, so everyone knows.
Yeah, a little disclaimer. I was pretty foggy on the numbers there for the deal analysis, but I think we eventually
we got there.
Right.
I felt bad after. We were like, well, damn, you did the work you said, and like I asked you to, then I didn't use it. So.
But that's the benefit of recording live and filling the numbers live, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, we still got the job done.
Yeah, just about,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can talk a little later. I know that, like anyone on their first investment property, or if it's their first or their fourth, run into challenges, and which we can talk about later. But I know that you had an excellent positive attitude going towards it and your outlook on it.
It's the only way to look at it, I guess. But yeah, we can get into that, I guess, a little later.
Right on. David, so when we talked on the phone, you mentioned the first thing you mentioned that before you moved into your property, your Nomad, is that you broke your lease to your current place, right?
Yeah.
Question, Jeff.
Yeah.
So let's take your mastermind out of this and just normal with no real estate investing experience. When you hear someone breaking a lease, what are your first thoughts?
Holy crap.
What else?
Basically, that they're serious, like they're ready to go, like they're ready to move, because, why else would you break your lease unless you're serious and ready to go? Because that means they don't want to wait any longer, and they found their next place to live, and it's not worth them to stay at their current place anymore.
Yeah, and why I say that is I can definitely relate to it, because for our first house hack, we ended up breaking our lease, but I know there's some additional charges, isn't there, right, if you break your lease?
Because of the experience we had with our property management company, we had everything documented, so we essentially weren't responsible for any payments aside from the lease breakage.
Sweet.
Right on.
Yeah.
So is your mortgage cheaper or more than what you're renting for?
Our mortgage, property taxes, interest, everything combined is cheaper than the rent
Nice.
was.
Really?
And that was one of the main factors, at least for me, was just pure numbers. We paid off the amount it took to break the lease in 2 months.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Right. So the numbers was a big thing for me. It was a little more emotional for my girlfriend to break a lease and go through all that stuff. But once Chris brought up the idea and we started looking, found our journey, found our path, I mean, it was pretty much a done deal. Never looked back.
That's good. Was your...
I was gonna say, and it comes down to too, like every lease is different for what what it costs to break the lease fees. Sometimes it's 1 month's rent, 2 months rent. Sometimes it's $10,000 or $15,000. You have to look at that lease and then wait, hey, what's the payback period on there? Now, I think, David, you guys had, 9 months left on your... you had a lengthy amount of time left on your lease, right?
Yeah, we had just moved to Colorado, and it was like a couple months into the rent.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so, but that's what you look at. So, hey, we could stick it out for 9 months and save about $5,000 or so, in 2 months worth of rent. Or, hey, if we buy property now, because you guys closed in November, right?
We moved in our new place in January.
In January, okay. Yeah. Now even the crazy last few months aside, that couple $1,000s has been made up in appreciation, debt pay down, everything else. You have to look at not just the cost, the payback period, and just the opportunity cost of not having your foot in the game as well.
Yes, it's crucial, because where does your rent go every time you pay rent?
The landlords like us.
The landlords like us, it goes out the door. You don't see anything back. I can relate. When I first moved here, I was paying rent, and it killed me. Every time I wrote a check, I didn't see anything in return. And I didn't care if even my mortgage was a little bit higher in rent. I still wanted that. David, was your first initial thought for investment, was it to Nomad, or was it something different?
I actually wasn't even familiar with nomading at all initially. So when I first got into, Rich Dad Poor Dad was my first book too, like everyone else. Got into Bigger Pockets, started learning, and initially, I was only constrained by my own thoughts and my own perception of what real estate investing was at the time. So I looked at the capital that I had to put down on a place, and with that, for some reason, I was focused on duplexes. I love the idea of a duplex, living in one side, renting out the other, or just renting out both, for maximizing the profit on a property. So with the amount of capital that I had as a down payment, I was primarily focused on out-of-state investing. Okay. And there's pros and cons to out-of-state. The con, obviously, you can't have eyes on the property the whole time. It's a little bit more of a hassle. But that was the only thing I thought that I could do at the time. And then I had a meeting with Chris. I found a real estate agent through the Bigger Pockets network that was focused on primarily investors and investment properties. And she hooked me up with Chris. And within the first 10 minutes of our meeting, Chris was like, why don't you guys just break your lease and buy a place for yourselves? It makes a lot more sense than renting and owning an investment property. And, at that moment, the light bulb went off, and I was like, Chris, I love you. Thank you. I was like, it was literally never something I'd never even considered. So from that point forward, we were looking for places for ourselves. And Chris sent us a couple books, and, the great thing that I found from his book was, one of the great things, was the Profitability Scale. I'm pretty sure it's from your book. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a profitability.
I don't think that one is.
No?
But talk about it. Yeah, I don't think it is.
Claim it.
I'll give you credit. But there's a profitability scale where basically you have profit on one end and comfort on the other. So when you're house hacking, you're more towards the profitable side, but when you're nomading, you're more towards the comfortable side. So it's a spectrum. There's a balance there. And if you have a wife or a girlfriend or kids, it's something that you have to consider is the comfort over the profit. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was all about the profit. I wanted to rent out every room. I would confine myself to a small space, give everyone else the square footage of the home. But for my girlfriend, that was not going to work. And we have a dog too, so it's just a balance. So initially we were looking at mother-in-law suites with walkout basements, somewhere where we could separate the levels, where whoever was renting the home would have their own space, their own place that we wouldn't have to interact with them that much. And then just out of nowhere, our agent found a townhome that was brand new. The payments on it were pretty low. I ran the numbers on some of the spreadsheets that I had. The numbers just looked really good. But we wouldn't be house hacking at that point. So we went from out-of-state investing to house hacking to now just owning a place and living in it. And that's when I discovered nomading, and that you can, save money by only putting 5% down, put that towards the next place in a year. So it was a lot of different direction changes in our journey, and this was all in I think it was about 2 months. So it happened pretty quickly. But we found that townhome. We loved it. It was a new property, so we didn't have to put any work in. It was below the price that we wanted to pay for a home initially. And when we looked at our mortgage options, we were able to leverage the VA loan. So we leveraged it with 0% down, 2.25% interest rate, fixed, and 0 down. Was a no-brainer for us, because that just meant all the money that we were saving for the initial down payment could just be used on our second one. So it was a springboard essentially for a nomad journey. So now we moved in January, and it's great. The numbers look really well in terms of rentals for when we move out. It's right near the airport. There's a lot of potential there. The rentals are going. If we want to talk a little bit of numbers, I think it was around $2,700, because it's a 4-bedroom place. So we have a lot of bedrooms that we don't use.
So it's a 4-3?
It's a 4-3, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 4-3.
HOA?
There is an HOA.
Okay.
The HOA is $185 a month, I think. So it's lower than some of the other HOAs that we were looking at. It's technically part of Denver County, so the taxes are a little bit higher. But our overall payment's about $2,000 a month. And for the rental, we were paying $2,500.
Wow.
For a 3-bedroom home that we weren't using the whole space either. So
that's all. So what's the general location of your property right now?
It's about 15 minutes southwest of the airport. So right near
perfect.
Green Valley Ranch area.
That's a great area.
A lot of new construction, a lot of new restaurants, a lot of new buildings. So there's a lot of potential in the area. And then just the rental prices looked amazing. And it's a new property, so we don't really have to worry about maintenance. The whole exterior of the home, because it's a townhome, maintenance free. So there's just a lot of pros that went into this one.
The new build townhome is definitely a plus. You don't have to worry about maintenance, yard work.
Yeah, because you just bought one yourself, right?
I did. We just bought a townhome a couple months ago, and it is nice seeing when everyone's going to Home Depot to buy mulch, to buy rock, landscaping, and doing and shelling out a lot of money to keep their property looking nice, and we don't have to do that. But then again, times change, your life changes, and one thing that I picked apart that you said that I loved, which anyone listening to this, go back, I'd say 10 minutes and listen to your profitability versus your comfort. Because everyone in this room are doing the same thing, but just a little bit different. I think Jeff is definitely the guy who...
Profitability all the way. That whole spectrum over there, yes, did get sacrificed to comfort.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's definitely going to pay off. Versus me, we specialize in medium-term rentals and Airbnb, but we sacrifice a little bit of that monthly income for the peace of mind and the space, because we're working on starting a family. So if you wanted an analogy, we're all athletes here, but we're all specialized different ways. We have a basketball player, a baseball player, football, whatever it may be, but we're all doing the same thing, which takes different skills, right? And
Absolutely.
Even Chris, you're doing a small form of house hacking as well to fit your life as well, right?
Yeah, I am. I mean, not nomading, not doing traditional house hacking, but my wife and I, we have 2 daughters. They'll be 2 and 4 this summer. And when we bought our new house, or the current house we're living out here, my wife's mother was at a point where she wanted to move out to Denver to be close to us, especially the grandkids, and it made the most sense for her actually come live with us, and we converted the basement to a full mother-in-law suite. So rather than her buying her own home, she put money towards the remodel, some other home costs, so it was actually cheaper for her and a great win for us. We have an extra family member around right now to help out with kids, home cooked meals, and just having more family around. And it's great for her because she was able to, put less money out to buy a house. She's close to family, and so it's just a great win-win. And it's all about blending the market, your strategy, and with what you can do from a capital standpoint and find that sweet spot, because what everyone is doing here at the table is great for them, but it's not going to be right for the person across the table from him.
Exactly. And everyone just needs to think of what fits your personal goals, what you want for the future, and what type of real estate portfolio you want.
Gotcha. And David, for the VA loan,
Yes.
I do not know exactly if you could use it like twice or 3 times, or is it a one-time thing? Because I know for most people in the military, they get transferred a lot with their job. Like in the military, you get transferred a lot, and you can like buy a house in Alabama, then you get transferred to Hawaii, like buy a house there, and then you can use the VA loan. But if you're stay here, could you use it again when you hit that 1-year mark, or do you have to go to normal financing, the normal people financing?
The normal people, the higher interest rates.
Yeah.
From my understanding, you can only have one at a time. So you can use it as many times as you want, as long as you only have one. So if you were to do, let's say, like a cash out refi and get a whole new loan and pay off the VA loan, you could use it for your next place. But as long as you still have that VA loan, you can't reuse it. So if we were to keep this place without refinancing, we would have to just do a conventional 5% down for our next place. But the requirement is you have to live in it for 1 year. It has to be a primary residence. As far as I know, you can't use it for an investment property.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. It's anyone out there that's in the military, it's a fantastic product if they're not using it.
Yes, absolutely.
2.25. I mean, that's, I don't even know, that's the lowest I've heard. I don't know about you, Chris. Have you heard a lower rate than that?
No, that's about the lowest. I mean, right around 2.25, 2.3. We saw a few of those last year when interest rates were, you hit, right timing for interest rate standpoint, and with the VA loan as well. And I can tell you, there's a lot of small print with the VA loans out there. So always talk to a lender about it. When it comes time to refinancing, there's different refi options. The rules do change, so make sure you do talk to a lender and don't just rely on Google or what we're saying here for VA loans.
We need a small disclaimer.
Well, I've learned 3 different clients this past year. I've learned 3 different things about the VA loan. So it's always, I've learned a lot this last year, but every time we do a VA loan, a lot of times there's something slightly different as the person moving from one property to the next property. So it's definitely an intricate product out there that is phenomenal for buying properties, but make sure you know what you're doing and make sure you have a lender that knows what he or she is doing as well to help you play that chess game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Using your resources and reaching out to people who are familiar with it. So I don't want to do too much of a, well, yes, it's already been recording, but, or it would have already, the deal analysis for you, Ryan, but so I know you had some issues in one of your properties with some plumbing. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. In a bathroom? Do you want to explain?
Yeah. So I had 3 main problems when I moved in. I already mentioned, the advertising of the open rooms was a struggle. And then I was also dealing with radon issues when I moved in that I was kind of, that the previous owner was on the hook to pay for, but then they kept sending in their own contractors, which we never really trusted what they were saying. So I had to end up getting my own contractor to deal with that radon issue, and then billing back the owner wasn't easy. And then, about a month after that, we had just a big flood in the basement bathroom. And we had to pull out the tile, pull out the drywall, pull out carpet. It was essentially down to the studs at one point, and I had a tenant that moved in about a month before that. Yeah. So I had to really quickly learn how to manage those expectations. So I ended up keeping the room upstairs empty because that was a bathroom that wasn't being used. So he was just having to go upstairs and use that bathroom. Then I helped him out with rent payments as well. So, yeah, it was tough. At one point, I think there was one day I had 20 different contractors coming in and out of the place, just getting a bunch of different quotes on the work, because, you know, I thought it was always a good idea to keep having these guys fact check themselves, you know. So I ended up leaning on my broker for the plumber who ended up doing the work. So, and I found that through Chris Lopez's team. So shout out to Lauren. Yeah.
Networking, reaching out. Hey, I can't preach that enough. So you reached out. How many quotes did you say? That's what I want to focus on. Is you said you mentioned you had about three quotes for repair work, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe even more. I think 4 was the final number. I had a few plumbers that just wouldn't even take the job because it was they just would scratching their head over it and no idea how to figure it out. So, I think in the end I had 3 or 4 different quotes, wide ranging for sure. You know, thankfully it was covered under insurance, so I had very little. I think I ended up breaking even completely. So,
what was the initial issue? Was it avoidable?
Yeah. So it was the previous contractor who did the work. So yeah. So I moved into fix and flip, and they converted the basement bathroom from a tub to a shower. And when you do that, you need to switch the draining system, I believe, and they just didn't do that. So it burst pretty quickly. But yeah, I was pursuing some other legal options, I guess, at one point to see if there was any recourse in the previous owner. And I guess there's really, I ended up letting that die. But yeah, it was definitely the previous contractor. So.
Well, so I guess now kind of sidestepping is you mentioned what happened in that property with converting a tub to a bath. That is exactly the problem I ran into when I got my first house hack, and I was remodeling the mother-in-law suite. I was doing all of the stuff myself because of course I'm stubborn. I want to do it. I want to do it myself and learn. We are converting a tub into a shower, and I was looking at it and I didn't see a P-trap in it. Added a P-trap. Accidentally added 2 P-traps. Everything's all done. We are having our friends come and stay, giving like a soft open for our Airbnb. I was like, oh, just flip on the water, and it doesn't drain. And like, that was my oh crap moment.
Yeah.
But that's when I finally ended up hiring it out and getting someone to go actually up from the ceiling, and it took me about 9 months to patch that hole.
Ooh. Yeah, plumbing is not something you want to mess around with. That's for sure.
So I'm curious. You had, let's say, 3 to 4 quotes for this job. Did you pick the high end, the very low end, the middle end?
It definitely. So I knew insurance was covering it. So it was more so. So I ended up. I think I'd pick the most expensive person for sure. But definitely the most trustworthy one that I identified as possibly being able to do the job themselves. And again, I had references for his previous work, so that was definitely important for me. So yeah, went with the high end.
You
treated myself.
You definitely get what you pay for. I can tell you that I have experience in the commercial and residential area, and I've even given out quotes. And I know that you don't want to always go with the lowest quote because doesn't matter what it is, you get what you pay for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Like low end, the middle's usually middle to high is usually what you want to go, because if you go too low, there's a reason it's low. It's probably because they aren't licensed, aren't insured, or that's usually because of the license and insurance. It gives you more reassurance for yourself that they'll do a good job because they have accountability. But when you find those uninsured people, they'll definitely be lower, but it's just more of the risk. So to me, every time I've gone low end, it's definitely the quality. It's like you get to choose between quality, price, and speed. and you can't get all 3. You get 2 out of 3, and that's just the 2 out of 3 is the 2 out of 3 that you want the most, and then go from there. Because some people want speed, but will speed and price, but will get back quality. Some people don't care. They just want it repaired. Like if he didn't have insurance that covered it, he'd probably go more in the middle or to low end, just to get it patched up so that tenant can move back down there. So yeah, that's what my experience is.
Yeah, I had a similar decision-making process too with the materials as well. I was looking at some low-end, the cheapest tile and all that stuff, and cheapest hardware, and it just, you sacrifice what it looks like, right? So I ended up going right in the middle of the pack. I mean, I didn't do granite. Granite was tempting the whole time because insurance was taking care of it. But it was. I understand there's a decent amount of maintenance that comes along with granite, so I ended up going the middle of the pack, like porcelain, tile work. So really happy with how it came out.
And then how did this is also the expectations of your tenant, because they had to now go upstairs to use the bathroom, and they had to avoid that area, and they had like a construction zone when they were living down there, right? How did you manage those expectations?
Yeah, so the bathroom was actually in his room too. So at one point we had plastic laid down from the top of the basement all the way through the basement through his room for probably 2 months. So it was definitely tricky for sure, but he was sympathetic, really, because it's nothing that I did. It wasn't any neglect at all. It didn't show up on the inspection. So he was definitely cool with it. I had a good relationship with him right from the beginning, and anytime there was an issue, it came down to communication. Just letting him know certain timelines. When the final timeline came out, I just told him, I was like, I'm going to give you a free month. We'll take care of this. I kept telling him, if you're ever unhappy, just let me know. Let me know. So it was a good rapport. And he's happy because he has a brand new bathroom right now, and it really looks nice. So, he actually just finished his 6 months with me, and he's staying on too. So we're talking about maybe adding another 6 months. So it's pretty good. It was tough, but it definitely made us closer, I guess. And I think he's very happy with how I handled it too. So
nice. And I guess with that being a fix and flip and a handyman special type of work, what would you do? I guess you can't really go back in time, but going forward, how will you approach future inspections, future bathrooms, plumbing, electrical stuff? How will you look at things now?
It's a good question.
Just buy a new build.
Yeah, buy a brand new townhouse like these guys over here, I guess. But it was hard because it's nothing you could really inspect for because it's plumbing behind the drywall. So we had a thorough inspection. I don't know. I guess maybe vet the previous owner a little bit more. I don't know. What would you guys think?
There's no way to really vet the previous owner. There's no way to do it. You get the seller's property disclosure, and that, a lot of times has not much information in there.
It was completely blank. Yeah.
Yep, which is pretty common, especially for flips. The inspection, the homeowners can't do much beyond what you did. You just got. It's a matter of when, not if. And yours just came on round 1.
Yep. Yeah, and just to kind of tap into the mindset stuff. It was definitely a tough start, but now I have experience with project management, vetting contractors. I have a network of contractors. I've dealt with insurance companies, and how I understand how the claims work. You could just sit and complain about it, but I always viewed it as a learning experience because exactly what Chris said, it's not a matter of if, but when. And it happened right off the bat, and I'm that much more seasoned, I guess, going into my next house hack here. So
I love that. I love that mindset of completely taking ownership of what you've bought and what you've gotten yourself into, instead of playing the victim card of why has this happened to me? I knew I shouldn't have done this, but completely taking ownership, and not only ownership of the situation and coming up with the solution, but working with your tenants and doing the due diligence on the front end of when you're vetting your tenants, because you already know you want people that you don't mind seeing during the day, you don't mind having a barbecue on the weekend with some beer. And then you work with them, and like we said, a couple podcasts ago, which I always remember, Jeff, is you said it's a people business. It doesn't matter what it is. The business, it's a people business on your relationships that you develop.
Yeah, I know, especially rent by room more so, because you're living with these people, and the better you're at screening, the better, especially while you're living there, more so, because if they're comfortable living with you, they'll live through a flood. They'll be comfortable going upstairs to use the bathroom every single day. Like, that's totally fine for them because they like living there. If it was someone you just put in there, just like, oh, I just want to fill it, I just want to get the rent as soon as possible, they might have been upset and like try to break their lease early. So because you spent that extra time, made all the difference.
Yep. Exactly.
I'm curious about the insurance piece. Was that just standard homeowners insurance that covered your problem? Or like for those of you with multiple properties, like do you have umbrella insurance? How does that work? How did that work in your case?
Yeah, no, it was standard homeowners insurance. It was a flood and the water damage, so all of that was covered. The remediation and all the work. So standard homeowners.
Do you recommend umbrella, Jeff, for those who do rent by room?
Well, umbrella won't help like replace property or fix things up. Umbrella's more for liability. So that way, if his tenant slipped on the water in there and fell down and had a bad injury and sued Ryan, or it happened like something bad, umbrellas will cover up like you have your homeowner's insurance property. It's usually like $300,000-$500,000 per home per property. But if your lawsuit's above $500,000, the claims above that, that's where the umbrella comes in and can potentially help out.
So is it just for the liability piece?
From my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and I always think that's a great thing to consider, and also talk with insurance agents about it. But umbrellas they're usually pretty expensive, $200 or $300 a year, but they just provide one more layer of security.
Yeah, it's always, I'm going to kind of go on the Dave Ramsey side of things. It's always you use your savings to pay for the little repairs you have to do, but for the crap things that come up where they're not just going to sue you for $50,000, it could be $500,000. That's where you want to be sure and always be conservative and save and protect yourself. And quick disclaimer, I'm not an insurance specialist, but the great thing is when you move out of your current your property you're living in, you change the insurance to a rental dwelling insurance. So now you're not covering your property inside of the property inside of the house. You're just covering the dwelling, and then you have the renters, which I recommend everyone having the renters have renter's insurance, and that covers them. So then after you do go from or you change your insurance, your typical insurance rate should go down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, because every time I've moved out and switched it to investment property, it's actually gone down, which I find that really interesting. And then, yes, to answer your question, umbrella insurance is something to definitely look into. I would say maybe depends on, again, what you're comfortable with. I would talk to your insurance agent, but the policies, like Chris was saying, a couple $400 a year for like $1 million. Extra, so it's always,
it seems worth it.
Like just to have that extra reassurance, you can sleep.
Yeah.
If you like, that'll help you sleep better at night. Like if someone is, we live in a very society where people sue each other over nothing. And if someone's walking your property, like someone doesn't shovel, and then they slip and break their arm, and they like just want to sue you, your insurance, your normal insurance will just cover up to a certain point, and then the umbrella kicks in. So definitely, for how cheap it is, if after you move out of yours, definitely look into it when you have renters.
So Jeff, you're on number 4.
Yeah.
Rapidly approaching number 5. Do you use the same insurance, or do you try to shop around for the best rates, or just keep it simple and say I'm using ABC insurance I have it for 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth, so it's all under kind of one package? Or do you try to shop around and go with a have multiple.
I'm like Chris, I keep it simple. Just stay with one place and have one insurance agent that handles all the policies. And then, I'm not one, like, could I maybe save $100 a year, $200 a year if I kept shopping every single year? Sure. But to me, it's not worth the hassle and time to like resubmit that information to every single insurance agent or insurance broker. Yeah. And the insurance agent I do use is fantastic and really understands house hacking, and also just to me, customer service is really important. So that if the person is very responsive, gets back to you. Like, for example, if I just have a question, I can call him up right now. And if he doesn't get back to me, he'll text me and say, okay, I'm in a meeting, I'll get back to you, or something like that. I appreciate that, the customer service aspect, more so than if I saved $100 a year from some other agent.
Yeah, sounds a lot like the profit versus comfort.
Yeah, same thing.
Ties into everything.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
One more thing about the insurance side there is if you do have different policies, different companies for different companies, is you got to be really careful about coverage gaps, because every policy they have the very high level, hey, we cover this, this, and this, but when it comes to nuances, like they can be different on there. So that is it's one thing to keep in mind if you have different companies, because sometimes, hey, one insurance company is going to be way cheaper to insure condos. Then we'll have a better policy for single family homes, we'll have a better policy for multifamilies. If you want all three, you could say I want different agent 1, 2, 3 for the different property types, but you have to make sure your insurance coverage works together. So I like keeping the same agent for everything because it keeps it simple. And I will be flat out over an email saying, hey, here's all the scenarios, everything's covered. Yes, they are. And that one person, in my mind, takes responsibility. And if something does not go right, it's going to be that person's E&O insurance or whatever insurance they have, or their professional status on the line. Hey, you said this was covered. It's not. What's the deal? So watch out for insurance coverage gaps.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I like that Jeff, you said was it does like that you wanted someone that knows what you're doing, which is house hacking. And that same principle applies to whether it's an insurance, your accounting, someone doing your taxes at the end of the year, because the more properties you get, taxes get more and more, not complicated, but more in depth. And then same with even going down to the basics of looking for an agent and even a lender, that they're all familiar with what you're doing. So you don't have to try to inform them, or nothing's missed.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to teach someone the strategy you're doing or have to explain to them. They should already know. And it'll make like your life a lot easier. Like, for example, lender, insurance agent, real estate agent, all the parties that are involved in the transaction, you want to make sure they're all on the same page, because if you have to explain to your lender, like, can I count this rental income if I'm renting a room? When you go to buy your next one, it's going to be a whole hassle. But if they understand it and they dealt with other clients of theirs that have done it, it'll be really simple. Like, give me the leases, show me the rental income on your taxes, and we'll count it for you. So simple as that. And all your team members, as long as they're on the same page as you, it will save you time and hassle and make you a much better investor, because that's what we're all here for.
Well said, Jeff. So we have about 10 minutes left. Before I have a couple more questions I want to cover. Before I do that, is there anything else anything you want to bring up? Any questions for Chris, Jeff, or myself about your current situation, or moving forward, what you're planning on doing with your career investing?
Oh man, I think what Jeff was just talking about is hugely important. If you're just starting out, to find people that are investor friendly and who are focused on investment properties, if that's what you're trying to do. I wouldn't have found our Nomad house right now if it wasn't for the real estate agent that we had. She knew what we wanted. She was familiar with investment properties. She was familiar with the numbers, and we weren't even considering townhomes. And she brought that to us, and it just happened to be perfect. So finding those people that understand you and understand your position are critical, absolutely critical.
Are you going to use that same agent for number 2?
I don't see why not.
Well said.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see why we would switch to someone else. Yeah, she knows what we want. We're looking for the exact same thing, most likely. As of right now, things could change. But yeah, it would probably be the same deal.
Yeah. I'm guessing you built a pretty strong relationship with that agent during the process, right? And they've got an idea of what your goals and your expectations are for not just this one, but looking at the big picture on what you really want to do in the future and what your goals are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, can I piggyback on that and say if you're looking to expand your network in real estate investing, look no further than Chris Lopez and the Envision team. I did a podcast 3 weeks ago, and the first thing I walked away is I didn't give them enough shine. They really have been awesome. From just individual deal analysis, getting your first property. Chelsea Scott, portfolio analysis. I had a meeting with her that was incredibly impactful and really helped give me a nice roadmap for properties, 1 through 10, 20, who knows? But, that was awesome. And then Jeff White here, I was he's doing a little dance if you can't see it in the studio, but I leaned on him a bunch throughout, my troubles, I guess, to start. So you're in good hands if you're considering getting into this space.
Well said.
And I did not get paid to say that.
Yeah.
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 So one last thing, I want to go around the table. So Jeff and we're on number 2, but I'm sure you guys are already planning for the future on going from 1 to 2, and you've decreased your monthly fixed expenses by either buying investment property or renting out your investment property to help decrease your expenses. You're saving money every month. Are you just putting that into a savings account and just letting it ride and playing the conservative route, or do you maybe dabble in some stock market?
Bitcoin.
No, that's what I wrote down on my sheet as well. I think it all depends on how soon you need the money. If you're less than 3 months away from having to put down a down payment, a savings account might be the best route for you. But 6 months away, I'm a big cryptocurrency guy. So yeah, Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's where my money's at.
All right.
So,
what about you?
I would say it depends more on your understanding. If you're just throwing money at the stock market, it doesn't mean it's going to be profitable. Crypto could tank to zero. Everyone could crack crypto next week. Who knows? So it really depends on your comfortability and what you're knowledgeable about. Like interest rates are 0 right now, so high interest savings account aren't really a thing. So I would recommend the market, but it depends on where the market's at. If it's a downtrending market and you're looking 6 months out, probably not the best move.
I couldn't agree.
And I'll say, something to keep in mind here with, you're putting money aside is, we've had a great bull market the last, 10, 12 years now, pretty much in every asset class. Everyone's like a brilliant investor. Stuff does go down, stuff does go sideways, and people a lot of times forget about that. Oh, it's going up and up and up. And it does until it doesn't anymore. And you have to really be prepared. Hey, if it does drop, look at your allocation. Like, I don't know, if you're 100% in the stock market, 100% stocks, 0% bonds, the worst years, I think 35 or 40% in a downturn. So that's potential could do it again. Do I think it'll happen this week? No, but it may. If that happens, was that due to your plans? Mm-hmm. So always have that, playing devil's advocate with yourself is very, very important.
Absolutely. Well said. What do you Jeff, what do you think?
I'm old man style. I do S&P 500 index funds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I do, also like Chris, I think Chris does this too, Ally Savings Bank.
Oh, yeah.
What are we at, 0.5? Yeah.
The high interest savings account?
Yeah. So it's just a good way, because I'm not like, do I want to do Bitcoin like Ryan over here? Absolutely. But it scares me to death. If you ask me, when I was 17 years old, I'd be like, okay, I'm all in. I'll throw out my $1,000 life savings right here. I'll go all in. But now it's just like I'm more of the conservative type where I get, because of the strategy I employ with rent by room and house hacking, I already get great return on investments from all that. So I guess that type of risk is different for me than just doing index fund investing, because it's more easier. I don't have time to just deal with researching all the.
It's a passive investment.
Yeah, because your time, you put a value to your time, right? That's
yeah.
thing you can't get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But for all the Bitcoin investors out there, I hope it keeps going up and skyrocketing and doesn't drop by 50% tomorrow. So
Yeah.
It's been a nice run.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
What about you, Ben? What's your strategy?
I'm a very conservative investor. I know that real estate is a very friendly investment if you look at it on the long term, and that's the game that I'm playing is an extremely long-term perspective, because if I know I could not gamble, but do my due diligence and go in the stock market, and I might make an additional 7 to 9%, or I could just have the peace of mind and put it into a savings account to where I know what it's going to be, and when it's ready, then deploy it into my next house hack to where I know that, let's say $20,000 that I put for a down payment, repairs, furnishing, if it's an Airbnb, is going to well outperform if I just kept it in the stock market. I know that if I take ownership of my money and I put it into real estate, which I can control what I do with it. I can't control the market, but I can control what my property and how my property performs. I'll take that all day. So I just put it strictly in a savings account, and I put my mind to something else, and I just don't do it. I guess I'm a little more old school. I could be missing out money, but it is what it is. Just like you said, I'm not going to sweat it.
Yeah.
I already know what I want. I made my decision.
Maybe I should sell my Bitcoin. Who knows? You guys convinced me.
But that doesn't take into account any of my other personal investments through my company that I work with, or 401k, or our company stock plan. I still do that, but I also have another pocket that I put into for real estate. So I'm just specifically talking about money that I plan on using within the next 12 to 18 months for another real estate investment property. That money is in the savings account, but otherwise everything else, I'm a big fan of diversing your portfolio. So I also do have the standard S&P 500, 401k, company stock match, and so on and so forth. So that's my long-winded answer.
Love it.
Cool.
Boring is fun, right?
That, you couldn't have said it better yourself. How are we looking on time, Chris?
We're coming up on the hour, so we'll need to wrap up here, Ben. So fire off last questions and then take her away.
No last questions. Anything going around the table? Last call?
I can't think of anything.
Perfect.
Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I think we all learned something here.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with us and talk real estate investing.
Anytime.
I mean, the best advice I can give is continue to grow your network with like-minded investors, and maybe that person doesn't know what you're trying to do, but when you connect with them, you can connect with others. Because I think my network just started back in late 2018 when I connected with Chris, and here we are right now. You never know where it'll lead you to.
Never stop learning. The best strategy might be one that you're not even aware of.
There you go.
Thanks, Chris.
Nice.
You bet. Hey, Ben, awesome job for on the podcast today, man. You'll be up for number 8 again next month.
I can't believe we're number 7, fastly approaching number 8, man.
I know, we'll be double digits for the end of the year.
Oh man, we'll have a special one for that.
All right, Jeff, Ryan, Ben, David, thank you guys for coming out. And listeners out there, if you guys have questions, everyone's contact details are in the show notes. Reach out. Their preferred contact method will be in there. Don't be shy. Everyone's here to network, invest, share knowledge. So definitely be proactive and get out there and network with everyone. Have a great one.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.